Clap your hands, everybody. All right, yo, everybody's gonna see all the scratches on my lenses though. Oakley's gonna be like, yo, those are not Oakley lenses. Who am I? Who am I and what do I do? Hi, my name is Jason. Last name Cologne for the government. I'm 31, turning 32. Basically, native New Yorker, born and raised out here, El Barrio, Spanish Harlem. What do? I am currently a dispatcher slash courier for a flower company called Urban Stems. Like I said, born and raised in New York. For about 28 years of my life, stood in El Barrio. The other 3 were spent in Brooklyn, throughout Flatbush, Greenpoint, and Bushwick. It was fun growing up in New York. So as a kid in the late 80s, early 90s, all we had were really, for bikes, all I ever had was like either a BMX bike that I borrowed from a friend or a mountain bike that you just find in the streets. And didn't really get to ride my bike much as a kid. I had one stolen when I was 9 and didn't get another bike till I was about 26. So basically, growing up in New York, a lot of trains, had a Metro card since young. You know, you could walk everywhere, so you don't really need a bike or a car. And I don't know, it was fun. It was fun growing up in New York City grime. Right before like 2000, it was a different era to grow up in New York. You know, there were still empty lots. You can go into abandoned buildings. You can go into abandoned train stations. Can't really do that anymore. And then in the area I grew up in, you have so many shortcuts that are now filled with like properties. You really can't do it. So when I look back at my photos, I get nostalgic and just reminisce. It was fun growing up in that old New York, that old environment. So right now we're riding to the bakery on 116 between Lexington and 3rd. Big staple in the community since I was young. My grandmother would take me here on a weekend day right before we cleaned. Definitely picked up like bread and butter. I've been drinking coffee out the bottle since I was a kid. As having a Puerto Rican grandma, all those that drank coffee at an early age understand what I'm talking about as we pull up. But yeah, man, this neighborhood influenced me to be who I am today. I was very happy to grow up out here. It was always diverse, even when I was a kid. So it was, you know, it was my neighborhood, man. Yeah. And then back again to get a coffee. But yeah, man, as you see, it's usually always packed in here. I mean, it's a small space, but always busy. You guys ordered already? Yeah. All right, thank you, Pa. Thank you. Man, I think I've had almost one of everything here except anything with strawberries. I don't really like strawberries too much. Cuando puedas, me da un café medium con leche y 2 azúcar, por favor. Gracias. Pasa buen. Okay. All right, we got it. We got it. That's it. Yeah. We in there. Today I got milk and 2 sugars. Usually I go milk, no sugar. But today, you know, I decided to do the sugars. We're gonna be filming a little bit. But I'm weird. I can do anything from straight black, no sugar, to light and sweet. I started out light and sweet as a kid, and the older I got, became more black with my soul. The darker the soul got, the darker the coffee got. Heads up. All right, so the bike I chose to ride today is my red Continuum. It is a steel Columbus tubing bike, one of 2 that were made. The first of the Super Machina Pista out of Continuum Cycles, which is down on 530 East 13th Street. Go get a visit over there. Go talk to Jeff, he's pretty chill. I used to race for Jeff, which is why I have a Continuum. One of my favorite bikes. I've won a lot of races on this bike, and I don't know, I've fallen in love with this bike. A few of the races I've won on this bike numerous numbers of Alley Cats. Took a couple Cat 3 wins at Casino this year with it. Oh, and how can I forget? I won Ward's Crit on it. Some people say that I didn't technically win Ward's Crit because I got nothing but second places. But hey, at the end of the day, I had more points than anybody there. So I'll take that win. But yeah, so I'm rocking my red bike. The name for this bike is Power Ranger Jason. It is my first male named bike. And only Power Ranger Jason because of red and white, and it reminds me of It's Morphin' Time when I'm on that bike. My name being Jason and all. How this bike is set up, right now I have, as a gear ratio, I have 48-17. It's pretty cool for the street. I'm able to like pick up speed and brake whenever I can. I do ride a track bike, so you know, for me, braking is either skidding or T-stopping with the back tire. I love riding in drops. I got Shigino 75 cranks on it, pretty chill. This is basically my race bike, so it has all my nicest components on it. Chris King, yeah. I do normally ride clipless pedals on the street, just because since it is my race bike and I'm usually racing all the time, I hate switching in and out of pedals. And I did lose my pedal wrench heading to California this year. They lost it in my luggage somewhere. As the story goes, you guys know, anybody who travels with their bike or anything, you guys know there's always some misplaced luggage. But yeah, yeah, usually riding clipless. I rather that. Unless it's an Alley Cat, then you know I'm throwing the cages on because I gotta run. But if I'm just chilling, heading to a podcast, or like to work, or just to hang out, I'm definitely clipped in, baby. What is Cat 6 Cheese Mess? Cat 6 Cheese Mess is a podcast, a cycling podcast based out of New York City. We created it, and when I say we, it was me, Francisco Colon, and Gabriel Diaz, 3 friends. Those 2 were working at a bike shop, and I was still a messenger at the time. And one day, I just go over to the bike shop after, and we're hanging out, drinking the fruit brews and shit. And I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan lately, and a lot of, I can't remember the name, Cycle Feed. Cycle Feed is an elite cycling podcast out on the West Coast. They usually interview like all the elites of Red Hook. And yeah, so I kind of want to like bridge something to that and bring it to the community. I know we have many platforms available for cyclists here, but none of us, like, I haven't seen or heard of a good show on a podcast. So one night, us 3 in the basement, just talking and seeing what we can do for next year coming up. And I had this idea of Cat 6 Stories was my original idea. And that entails Cat 16 is basically, if you lock eyes with another person in the street and they give you that head nod and you know it's about to go down, an impromptu race, you gotta go. So that's what Cat 16 is. And then at the time, I don't want to say that there was a lot of drama, but there was a lot of things going on in the scene. And basically, what Cisco and Gay wanted to do was give a platform for the scene so that they can have a voice. So we decided to combine the 2 and call it Cat 6 Cheese Mess. And 2 years later, we're here, almost on our 50th episode. So very proud of that. And this is the first year we started with the racing team, and that's C6 Racing, a play off Cat 6 Cheese Mess. I'm looking forward to next year, man. I'm 31 again. I started really late in cycling, but have grown so much in the past 4 years. Like I said, I didn't even ride a bike since like 9 years old. And I went straight into riding a track bike, no brakes, 49/16, no foot retention. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, as we hear the trucks. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then just, you know, after I got that knee injury, back in 2009, I had to do something for rehab. And about 4 years later, I finally got surgery. And during the rehab stint, I was on a stationary bike. And watching YouTube videos, I saw videos like Line of Sight, and that shit sent me down a rabbit hole. When I finally was cleared to like exercise again outside, I ran to recycle a bike, which I had a hookup through a homie, and that's where I got my first bike. It was a Track Bianchi Pista steel from like the early 2000s. It was in pretty bad shape, but you know, it was my bike, so I was hyped. And every night, since I got the bike, I would do 4 bridges. So I got the bike, I would do 2 laps in Central, go all the way down to Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, Willie B, Pulaski, 5-9, back to the house. So that was my route every night for the first year of riding a bike. So yeah, the hotline part that we're gonna do today is gonna take us through 2nd and onto the 5-9 bridge. A lot of people have told me that they've seen footage of that, but they're not gonna see it how we do it today. Most people ride the bridge from Queens into the city. We're gonna be doing it the opposite. We're gonna ride from the city into Queens to kind of give you a feel of how day-to-day life for me goes. Because as much as I live in the city and do most of my work out the city, all my important things when it comes to cycling comes out of Queens. The podcast, my race team, and just hanging out with the guys. Queens has become a second home for me, and I want to show y'all basically my route on my day-to-day if I'm not taking the tri-barrel. And this is the last sip of the coffee. Let's see where I can slam dunk this one at. On the left, right? Now I'm gonna go for a more open one. Make sure I don't miss. Yeah. Cause right now I'm on fire! On some NBA Jam shit. Sweet.